everyone, I'm Jane Cooper, and I'm from Access and Inclusion UK, and we'll be taking you through the session today. And just checking that we're due to finish at 12, is that right? We've got an hour, that's wonderful. I'll share my slides then, and it'll give us something to take a look at. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. You'll see that okay? And also make sure that I'm showing my sound as well. There we go. There we go, that should be fine. So this is all about accessible tourism. And I've called it Who Dares Wins for a good reason, which you will see as we're going through. If you've got any questions as we're going through, please don't hesitate to ask. I've tried to make it a little bit interactive as well. So it'll not just be me speaking, but a little bit of you joining in as well. So that's me on a good day. My company is Access and Inclusion UK, and we work around the UK and Ireland supporting businesses to be accessible for everybody. And the reason I do that job is the young lady on the right-hand side of the screen there, who is my daughter Megan, who is 28 on Saturday. She's the eldest of my 3 children, and she was born with a very rare chromosome condition that only 60 people in the world have. So it was a big difference in my life that I hadn't expected. She's very autistic. She has severe learning disabilities. She has some mobility issues as well. And it was like having the rug pulled out from under our lives, because suddenly the things that we thought would be easy weren't that easy. And life was a little bit different. And via various routes, it led me to doing what I'm doing today, which is supporting all businesses to be welcoming for all people. So these are some of the people that we work with, including the lovely Visit Scotland and other Scottish businesses, including Poppy Scotland, who I had the privilege of visiting. I think it was last year or the year before, I can't remember now. So lots of organisations I think you recognise. Also worked at the Solheim Cup when it was at Gleneagles. So yeah, helped that to be a really inclusive event. So when we talk about accessible tourism, who are we talking about? What does that mean? Well, it means visitors who might be deaf or have hearing loss, blind or partially sighted people, wheelchair users, autistic visitors, people living with dementia, older people as well, and that's a very significant market, families with pushchairs and people with dietary requirements. So often when we think about accessible tourism, we think of it as being a niche group of people, a small group of people. We often think about it in terms of being about wheelchair users, and they are a very important group to consider, but it's actually far bigger than that. So when you look at all these groups, if you think about the numbers of people you might know, any of these things might apply to, I can certainly speak from my own family members. I've got a number of family members who would be relevant in these respects. So it's a very significant number of people, as we will look at now. So we're talking about 16 million disabled people in the UK. So it's about 1 in 4 people who visit your business are likely to have some sort of accessibility requirement. They've got a total spending power as a whole group of 274 billion. And if you think about just the value of accessible tourism alone, so that's where one member of that travelling party is a disabled person in the way we've just defined it, that's worth £14.6 billion a year. So it's not just the right thing to do, it's a financially sensible thing to welcome everybody. Also, if you attract that one person, you attract their entire travelling party. So for example, I'm only going to go where Megan can get in. My whole family's only going to go where Megan can get in. So it's not just about attracting or losing that one person's spend, it's actually much bigger than that. And when you get it right, like with any visitor, they'll keep coming back year after year. So it tends to be a very, very loyal visitor group once you've got it right for people. If you add in what we call the grey pound, which is spending of power of people over the age of 55, then the total market is 594 billion. So it's huge, and there aren't many businesses really that can afford to ignore this market. On top of which, the UK aims to be the most accessible tourism destination in Europe, and that was announced in the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan in 2021. So by learning about all of this, you're helping to not only benefit your visitors and your local communities and your business, but also help to achieve this ambition too. So my first question to you is, why do people visit you? So thinking about your own business or thinking about Scotland in general, why would you say people visit you? So you can unmute and tell me if you would, or you can put it in the chat. But if you could talk to me, that'd be great. Why do people visit you? Any thoughts?
People?
Sorry?
The people?
For people? Yeah, they want to, visit the people, meet the people in Scotland, yeah. Anything else?
The places that they can see.
Yeah, so see some fantastic places and beautiful scenery. Yeah, what else would they come for?
Wildlife.
I thought you were going to say wine. Wildlife.
Both wildlife and wine.
Wildlife and wine, okay. Yeah, wildlife, wine, whiskey. Yeah, anything else? They might want to sample your food, spend time with family and friends. And that's actually what disabled people want too. So they've not come to say, oh, look at that lovely ramp. How beautiful. Look at that fantastic hearing loop. They've not come for that. That's just an enabler. But disabled people want the same things that everybody wants. It's just that they might need some adjustments to make that happen. So what we're going to explore today is some of those top tips that you can sort of think about for your own business, and also I've got some guidance about where else you might look for some more information if you're interested and want to find out more. The good news is there's no mystery to all of this, because accessible tourism at its heart is about doing those things which you are already good at, which is providing a warm welcome. That's what accessible tourism is about. The same as every visitor wants, the same as we all want when we visit somewhere, demonstrating to people that we know you, we understand you, and most of all, we value you. We want you to come back. So it's about the things that you're already doing. Just thinking about it in a broader way, really. So the way we can kind of make sure that we're accessible for as many people as possible is to think about what we call the 3 pillars of accessibility. So we can make some little adjustments to the information we provide, the facilities or equipment that we offer, and the customer service that we give. And by adjusting those things, we can help welcome more visitors. I've got a little sort of example of what the visitor journey is like for disabled people, because I think it's interesting to sort of think about this and to think about how has someone got to you, how have they found you, what might their experience have been up to that point. And it occurred to me when I had Megan that my days of trotting out of the house in a carefree fashion and a swing of my handbag were suddenly gone. And it was more like being a member of the SAS, because the preparation that's needed is huge. So if you could put yourselves on mute, we've got a little bit of feedback, sorry. So I put this little presentation together to sort of illustrate the point that it is like being a kind of a soldier preparing for a mission as a visitor. So you go from this on the left-hand side to something more like on the right-hand side. Suddenly I've got to prepare, I've got to plan, I've got to really think about where I'm going, what I'm taking with me, how I'm going to get there, and what might be available when I arrive at the other end. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select my target, and I'm going to do that by looking at the tourism sort of organisation for a region. I might look at something called Ewan's Guide, which is like the TripAdvisor for disabled people. I might look on Facebook or other social media. I might look on your own website and think, oh, you know, what are they telling me? So if you're not communicating the fact that you're accessible to people, I might not find you. So my first question is, are you promoting the fact that you've got accessible things to offer? Once I've decided where I'm going, I'm going to gather intelligence. So I'm going to look on your website and I'm going to try to find out if you've got relevant accessibility information that's for me, that it's easy to find, that I haven't got to dig around for it, and that it's got the things that are right for me and my travelling party. I'm going to think about, have you got a video that shows me what you offer? Have you got a detailed access guide from a company like Access-Able? Because, you know, some people might need that detail. So I'm going to gather intelligence. I've not even gone anywhere yet. I'm still in my pajamas Googling. And then I'm going to might have to do a bit of reconnaissance. So with Megan, I might not just set off. I might need to come and do a visit, gather some more information, speak to staff, look at things like, well, what are the toilet facilities like? How far is the parking from the entrance? Really kind of do a recce. Speaking to staff is really important to me because I'm a little bit anxious when I travel as well. So I want to know that it's friendly staff who kind of understand and we're going to be okay. Then you've got the mission itself. We're actually going to go out, we're going to go for it. And then at that point, it's does expectation meet reality? So have you got the things that I thought you'd got? You know, all the things that I thought would be there, are they in place? It's important to make sure those things match together. And then it's mission accomplished. And it feels amazing. So when there are a lot of things I can't do with Megan, inevitably, and I tell myself it doesn't matter a lot of the time, but actually it does matter. So when we find somewhere that is right for us, it means the absolute world to both of us. So, you know, as a tourism business, you're creating the backdrop for some fantastic memories for people. So it's quite a responsibility you've got, I guess, but also a privilege and an opportunity to make some fantastic memories for people. Interestingly, 90% of disabled people will try to find accessibility information about a place before they visit. Those are big numbers of people. 62% will assume you're inaccessible if they can't find the information they're looking for. That's a big drop off between the people who would like to come and the people who decide not to come just because of the fact you've not published information. So for me, information is potentially your biggest barrier, but also your greatest opportunity. And the thing that you can put right or make a big step towards, you know, putting in place at very little cost. And I'll give you some guidance on how you can do that really easily at the end of the presentation. So if you did nothing else, but just published information about your accessibility, you would have made a giant step forward. I think we've still got a little bit of feedback, so if you could just pop on mute, that would be great. Where somewhere's got good accessibility, 76% will make a return visit. That's a lot. So that's a really loyal customer base, and I can certainly vouch for that. So Megan won't go to many places, but she'll go to Sheffield Arena, near where I live, and we're regular visitors there because she loves it, and it's right for us. So question is, how can you improve your accessibility and what information should you provide? And what things can you do? So we're going to look at that during the rest of today. Well, have you any questions about what I've talked about so far, just before we move on? Any thoughts or questions? No? Okie dokie. So we're going to do a little bit around understanding your visitors. So these aren't Googled people, these are real people. So my dad is Gary, and he's deaf, he wears 2 hearing aids. Stephanie is a lady who's blind. I met her in Blackpool. Hannah is a wheelchair user and she travels with Alex. Megan is my daughter and she's autistic. And Brian is someone who's living with dementia. However, I think when it comes to the example, I think I talk about my Auntie Betty at that point, because she's a lady living with dementia as well. So I've kept it real for me. So these are examples of people I know. So we're going to think about each one in turn. So first of all, I'm going to do just a little exercise. And what I'm going to stop the share for a second so I can see you. You might want to put your videos on at this point if you're able to. I'm going to we'll just think about how communication and the kind of sort of issues around communication if you've not got the audio available. So if you haven't got if you've not got access to audio information, you know, we're thinking about what that experience might be like. So I'm going to say some words, and I want you to guess if you can guess what I'm saying. So I'm not going to say them out loud. I'm going to say them just by kind of you trying to lip read. Okay. If you think you know what I'm saying, shout out. So these are words all connected with a kitchen. So I'm going to give you a clue for this first lot. Okay. So I can never think of anything in the kitchen at this point, by the way. My mind goes blank, but I'll try. So the first one is any ideas? Any ideas? No? That was Mixer Tap. Okay, we'll do another one.
Freezer?
Fridge freezer, yeah, so half of it, that's great. And the last one is
Something coffee?
instant coffee. So when you've got an idea of the context, it's you can kind of make it out a little bit. If it's random words though, it might be a different story. So okay, I'll give you some random words, see if you can guess these. The first one is any ideas?
Portable heater or something.
It's portable speaker, so it's not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, take another one. Let's have a think about this. Chesterfield Football Club. The Mighty Blues. So it's a little bit more difficult if you've not got access to if you don't know the subject matter. So if I was to say something like any ideas what that is? I'm guessing not. I might have to nip off the call in a minute because I'm expecting a new lamp delivery. But it's just a jumble, isn't it? It's difficult. So if you've not got audio information, other things are needed. You need other things to support that. And there also you need to think about when you're sort of welcoming your visitors, you're not necessarily going to know that someone is a deaf person. They're not going to announce it. So it's thinking about making sure that you face your visitors, all your visitors, that you've got a clear view of your face and your mouth, that you're speaking slowly but not exaggerating your lip movements, and just thinking about sort of effective communication. But there's some other things you can do in terms of and this is an overview today. We could spend 2 hours just thinking about this, but there are some little things you can do within your business to make a difference for these visitors. So I'm going to share my screen again now. Just bear with me a second. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. So some of the things you can do, make sure you've got good written information in your business. So when someone arrives, it's very clear kind of what the process of checking in might be. For example, if you're an accommodation provider, making sure you've got subtitles on any videos that you have either on your website, in your venue, or that you share on social media. Having good signage, because people are going to rely on the signage more to sort of navigate with. Thinking about, have you got a hearing loop? So a hearing loop magnifies sound within a specific area. And if you've got a hearing loop, is it working? Have you tested it? You might also want to do some British Sign Language, provide some British Sign Language sessions. And that might be that you might learn a few signs, or it might be that you program in some British Sign Language sessions at some point throughout your program of events. So some little things you could do. The easiest thing you can do, if you're members of staff, is have a pen and paper so that they're able to write down any information that might be relevant for someone who is deaf or has hearing loss. I met a group of deaf people on Saturday, and they were saying that's the easiest thing in the world to do, but a lot of people don't do it. One of the things they said that was really surprised me, I had an interpreter because they use BSL, British Sign Language, and they said that when they arrive somewhere and tell people that they're deaf, they often say, oh, that's okay, we've got some Braille information that you might like to take a look at, which surprised me. And they said that's not a one-off, that's a regular thing, which is clearly not for deaf people. So yeah, so just a few examples of things you can do. Visit Scotland have got some fantastic resources about all of these things, which I'm going to signpost you to at the end, but this is just a snapshot. So does this make sense? Is this kind of, can you kind of, yeah, make sense? Marvellous, okay. So we're going to think about Stephanie now, and this is a whistle-stop tour, as I say. I do a full day's course on this, or half a day. So this is just a snapshot to get you thinking, really. Thinking about Stephanie now. So Stephanie's a blind lady. I'm going to do a little exercise again, but this time I'd like you to close your eyes in a minute. I'm going to play a video for you, and I want you to see if you can guess what the video is trying to sell you. So it's trying to sell you something, right? And I want you to see if you can guess what it's trying to sell you, but with your eyes closed. Does that sound okay? Yeah. So if you are ready, if you could close your eyes, and I'll press go in a second. So if you can close your eyes now, I'll flip over the slide and I'll press play. Bear with me a second.
I cannot forget the time I first laid eyes on you. I knew I was baby, I'm I hear you
So with your eyes closed still, hopefully you could hear that, otherwise it would have been slightly tricky. But so any guesses about what that's trying to sell you?
No.
No. Any other thoughts?
Car.
A car? Yeah, any other guesses? No, do you want to have a look? So it's actually Coca-Cola.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But why don't we know it's Coca-Cola? Because it doesn't mention Coca-Cola, does it? Because there's a mismatch between what's going on in terms of the sound and what the message of the video is. So my sort of question is, if you think about your own videos that are playing on your website or maybe on your site, if someone is a blind person, what would the message be? What message would they be getting? Would it be just some music? Would it be something relevant? What would the reality be like? And so not having information in the right format is again a bit of a barrier for many visitors, but for this visitor group, again, not having that audio information is going to be the sort of thing that gets in the way, perhaps, of a good visit. So some of the things you can do then are have audio commentary on your videos. Make sure that it's giving a relevant commentary or narrative in terms of what is being shown. You can have things like sound boxes or benches. So I don't know if you've heard of a sound box or bench. I've got a bit of feedback again. If you could just pop on mute, that'd be great. So a sound box or bench gives audio information out when someone sits on the bench or when someone passes. You can have tactile maps or tactile objects that people can touch and get a sort of sense of an environment and sort of map out, often with raised lines, so they can map out where their route is by feeling the different textures. Like a lot of things, sight loss is a spectrum. So it might be that people have vision, but might benefit from large print information to help to access what you've got to say. Large print is anything sort of 16 to 18 point font size and bigger. And a lot of people will benefit from that. And whilst these things are sort of necessary for some, they're often useful for everybody. So I think it lifts your visitor experience for everyone. You can have touch tours or tactile objects, and in some historic properties they have a handling list of things that people can touch to bring something to life for them. And it might be replica objects, sample fabrics, all sorts of different things with good textures. Page magnifiers can help highlight the details of things for people. Again, if they've got some vision, and that helps, again, highlight the details of objects for everyone or text. You can have audio tours, which I think many of you will have anyway, and key signage in Braille. This time it is relevant. So that key signage in Braille, again, something that's really helpful. So anything you want to ask me about and again, this is just a snapshot. There's lots more sort of behind this and supporting this. So anything else you want to ask me about that? Very quiet. Am I scary? Okay, well, we'll think now about people who are wheelchair users or have mobility impairments. So we're thinking about Hannah on this occasion. She's one of 1.2 million wheelchair users in the UK. And this time I'm going to share a video with you which highlights some of the difficulties that people can face when they're a wheelchair user. And you may be able to relate to this either from your own experience or family members or friends. So some of the difficulties that they're experiencing in this video, you might be sort of very familiar to you. This gentleman from this video is a man called Will Pike, who acquired a spinal injury. He was in advertising. He fell and it broke his back. So he was a wheelchair user from that moment on, but thought he'd put together a short video just to highlight some of the changes he's experienced in his life and some of the things that are tricky for him now. It was done at the time of the Paralympics in 2012, so it's got a bit of a Paralympic theme to it, but I think it's a nice way of highlighting some of the barriers he experiences with a little bit of humour as well. So again, I'll make sure I'm sharing my sound. If you can't hear it, will you wave at me, because I'll not know? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, I can. Suddenly, yes, I can. Gee, I'm afraid to go on has turned into yes, I can. I was just born today. I can go all the way, yes. I can.
Oh. Hi there. Do you have a ramp?
We don't have.
Why don't you have a ramp?
I don't know.
I can drink out here?
Yeah.
Do. Oh, yeah. Can I get a table in there for a little evening drink?
Yeah, of course.
Just wondering, do you have a disabled toilet?
No.
How big are your mineral water bottles?
Wind me up and watch me fly. A regular sort of sunburned Superman. Are you ready? I can find Everest.
Yeah, good man.
Yes, I can.
Where's your men's wear
I
for
can
Sean?
fight here all night and never rest.
Cool, have you got a lift?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, over there.
I have just found the key. Hey, doors swing wide for me. Yes. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
So experienced quite a lot of what we might call barriers there. So it was things like, steps were a barrier, not having an accessible toilet. Just one step can make mean that people can't sort of get in or get round. The height of things, so the height of the bar at the end was sort of slightly tricky. Narrow spaces. So lots of things that can kind of just cause that sort of disruption in a visitor journey. So I think for this audience, the information is really critical, and having that online is really, really important. So then people can choose, is that venue going to be right for us? And what you're not doing, you're not prescribing who you're accessible for or not accessible for. You're saying, this is me, this is our business. I've described it and I've shown pictures and you can now decide if it's right for you. So you're trying to manage expectations as much as anything else, really, and help people choose the right venues to visit. Other things you can do is where you can, ramps, even portable ramps and lifts. You can have an accessible viewing area. One really interesting and kind of simple tip that gets missed is having regular seating. So there are so many spaces that just don't have any seats at all. So just having one seat in a space would be brilliant. And also thinking about having seats with and without arms, because some people want to lower themselves into and out of a seated position. So seating, a mobile hoist will be relevant, and it might be relevant for the for beach wheelchairs. We spoke about that very briefly earlier. So if people aren't able to transfer Isla, then a hoist will facilitate that for people.
Sorry, Jane, I was just going to say, having a look at the screen here, all these things are available at Dornoch Beach. We have an indoor hoist. We have a outdoor hoist that's marine quality, so it's a huge bit of kit, really expensive.
Fantastic.
And we also put in 2 picnic benches that are wheelchair accessible.
Fabulous.
We haven't got toilets, which, we're never going to have toilets unless the Highland Council put them in. We have play equipment for wheelchairs because we included that in the play park, and also we put in a sensory musical playground 2 years ago. Last year, a table tennis table and a bowls court, both wheelchair accessible. So I'd say Dornoch is ticking a lot of those boxes.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, which is brilliant. And then the great thing would be to make sure you're telling people about, giving people that message, so that people can know what the great things you're offering. As you mentioned there, changing places toilets, which I'll come to in a second, lowered counters, and also accessible picnic benches, as you pointed out. So an accessible picnic bench simply means that someone can wheel up, pull underneath, and enjoy a picnic with their family and friends, and not eat their lunch at arm's length, which is what we'd all want to do. So again, just some really kind of simple top tips, but a lot more sitting on the Visit Scotland website if you want to go and take a look, and I'll signpost you shortly. With changing places, I have a little exercise that I often do. Just very briefly, and I'm just wondering whether I've got time to do the exercise. Just very briefly, if I was to say to you, what words do you associate with a public toilet? What would you say to me? What words would you describe? What would you? I say public toilet, and what do you think?
Avoid.
Avoid? What else?
For the reason that your slide shows, they're generally quite dirty places.
Dirty. Anything else?
Well, accessibility is an issue for wheelchair users, certainly.
Might not be accessible.
No.
People often say smelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those things, and the reality is that 250,000 people face being changed on a public toilet floor every day, because through either age-related ill health or brain injury or severe disability, they need to wear continence products and be changed when they're out. So what they need is a changing places toilet, and without them, people are being changed on public toilet floors right now, right today, wherever you're sitting. People are doing that, and I've done that with Megan, and it's quite sad actually. Yeah. These are changing places, and these make the world of difference. So large hygienic spaces that look a bit like this, 12 square metres, an adequate space for a disabled person and those who are supporting them, and lots of other features as well. All the changing places in the UK are listed on changing-places.org. And if you don't have a changing places, which many of you won't, what you can do is look for the one nearest you and pop that on your website to support visit planning. Not everybody can afford to put one of these in, and I completely get that. But if you can signpost people to the nearest one, that would be amazing. So that's my little ask of you all. If you could do that one thing, that would be mega. Okay, so we're going to move on because we've sort of not got a lot of time to go. So thinking about autistic people, we're going to think about Megan now, and she's one of 700,000 people in the UK who are autistic, and you may know people who are autistic too. It's a spectrum condition, so it can affect people a little, a lot. It might vary with the time of the day or the situation that someone's in. It's a lifelong developmental disability, and it affects interaction and communication. 3/4 also have people with autism also have learning difficulties, and 1/3 experience mental health problems in their lifetime. One of the aspects of autism is that any of your senses can be, there are lots of aspects to autism. So I'm just picking out this one example. Your senses can be tuned sort of, you can be either undersensitive or oversensitive to sight, sound, touch, textures and smells. So that has a big impact on your visitor experience. So for example, if I'm oversensitive to the things that I see, instead of walking into a foyer, or let's take a meeting room, a training room, something relevant. So if I walk into a training room, I would process it as a group of people in a training room. An autistic person might process it as X number of men, X number of women, X number with short hair, X number with long hair, X number with glasses on, X number without, X number of lines on the floor, blinds on the ceiling, lights on the walls, patterns on the carpet, processing every single detail. Similarly with sound, if I'm in a restaurant, I can communicate with someone opposite me and I can shut out the rest of the noise that's going on. But an autistic person might hear every conversation, the background music, the traffic outside, the staff in the kitchen, every clank of a fork on a plate. Again, with feeling, with textures, sometimes people hate to be touched. Sometimes people like what they call deep pressure. So Megan will ask for what she calls a squeezy love, which is where she likes to be squished. She likes her head squished and her finger squished because it feels nice. And similarly, tastes and textures, people might be under or oversensitive to. So it's a different experience, really. If someone is, I'm not going to play that actually, or shall I play that? Yeah, I'll play it. So this is an example of just dipping you into that world of an autistic person, just for a couple of minutes, just to kind of think about what that might be like and some of those things that you might be oversensitive to and what the implications of that might be for someone. And again, just making sure I'm sharing my sound. Yeah. You can see there that everything that little boy is kind of becomes sort of overwhelmed with all the things that he's trying to sort of process. And what's happened there is that it's just got too much for him. And people, that can sometimes happen. So it's what we call a meltdown or a shutdown, where people, autistic people, can sometimes become just too full of information. And Megan experiences that. And when that happens, she actually hits herself. She's bitten through this part of her finger before, and it's really kind of, really quite sort of tricky to it's difficult for me as a mum to see that. And what's needed then is time and space to recover. So it's not like a toddler tantrum. It's not done to get attention. It's just because someone's too full of information. So what are the kind of things you can do? You can offer a quiet space. And that doesn't have to be anything fancy or sensory or anything. It's just a quiet space where people can go and kind of recover and then sort of reconnect with the world when they've kind of been able to sort of get rid of some of that input. You could offer a familiarisation visit, because very often people will want to see where they're going before they actually go, just for a few minutes, just to kind of let me come for 10 minutes, let me see what it's like. And then when I go for real, I'm not going to a new place, I'm going to the place I've visited, so it's easier for me to get there and to stay with you. You could create a sensory story, so that tells you in simple words and pictures what someone might see, hear, touch, taste or smell during a visit. And again, it helps me prepare. And you could have a fast track queuing policy. If you have big queues, autistic people very often find queuing difficult. So having a fast track where they can sort of cut across that queue or bypass that queue is helpful, as are ear defenders to cut out some of the noise. Often people will have their own. If they've forgotten them, how nice would it be to be able to offer a set of ear defenders? And you don't want anything expensive. You don't want something that's going to cut out all the sound, because he'll still need to hear people speaking, but just cuts out that background racket. Let people know about your Wi-Fi if you've got good Wi-Fi, because people often will rely on that to look at familiar videos or listen to songs as a sort of an act of comfort, really. Help them to transition from one place to another. You could have some Makaton sign sessions. Have you heard of Makaton? It's a simplified form of sign language that Mr. Tumble uses on TV. Most people have heard of Mr. Tumble. You can learn that online or on YouTube. It's used often by autistic people or people with learning disabilities, often used in schools as well. You could offer a quieter session, so a session when it's a bit quieter, publicise quieter times of the day, etc. And you can use these little things called PEX symbols or widgets, which are little cards that have a picture on it that represents a particular thing, and it helps to understanding sometimes for people who use that system. So a number of little top tips you can use there. So now I'm going to think about dementia. Just got a few minutes left. I don't know where my Auntie Betty's gone. She's there. But just the thing about dementia, it's there are around 850,000 people living with dementia. The key message with this is it's not a natural part of aging. It's caused by diseases of the brain, and it's not just about losing your memory. It can affect people in lots of different ways. So any of the things we've talked about so far might be relevant, and people can still live well with dementia. That's the important thing. It's still important to keep them visiting places and creating sort of great experiences. And I've got some. I'm going to send a copy of this presentation, so I'll leave you to sort of consider these different questions. I'm just going to ask you one of them. So you're about to enter a building and you notice a large deep hole in the floor. Okay, how would you feel if that was the case? So you're about to enter just an ordinary building and you go through the door and there's a very dark deep hole in the floor. What would you feel? What would you think? Any thoughts?
Oh, fear mostly.
Yeah, fear. You might think, what on earth is this about? What's going on? Yeah. And actually a dark hole in the floor, a dark threshold mat can appear to like a dark hole in the floor for someone who's living with dementia due to changes in depth perception. I'll just give a couple of other examples. So if you imagine if you went into a room in a stately home and there were snakes slithering all over the floor, what would you think then?
Be terrified.
You might be terrified, yeah. And if you're living with dementia, complex patterns on walls and floors can appear 3D and real. And so at Chatsworth House in Derbyshire, the Cavendish coat of arms is intertwined snakes. So one of the carpets is intertwined snakes. So they might appear real for someone who's living with dementia. So instead of thinking about complex patterns, when you redecorate, you might want to think about simple patterns that might make that experience easy. But I'll tell you a couple of other ones as we go in a couple of minutes as we go through. Just thinking about the way dementia affects someone. If you think of your brain as a set of fairy lights, when dementia happens, some of those lights start to flicker or go out. And depending on what aspects of a person's brain those are related to will determine how the dementia affects them. So it might affect any of the things we've talked about so far. It might affect balance or vision or coordination or mobility or hearing or memory, lots of different things. The other things to think about in terms of the way we kind of hold information in our brain is we've got memories and also feelings. So if you imagine I'm 80 and my memories are stored in like a bookcase that's a bit flimsy, and the most recent memories are on the top shelf, and then the next shelf is the previous decade, and then the previous decade, and so on. When dementia happens, it's like an earthquake rocking that bookcase. So which are the books that are going to fall off first?
The newest ones.
The newest ones. So I might lose the sort of last few years, and then as dementia progresses, I might lose the next few years, and so on and so forth. So my most recent memories might actually be when I'm in my 40s. But with feelings, each memory's usually got a feeling that goes with it, but feelings are more sturdy and stable. They're stored more securely. So whereas someone might forget, so my Auntie Betty might forget that I visited, but she might still feel really good because it's nice to see me. Someone might forget that they've been to visit the beach wheelchairs, but might feel really good. And that's why it's still important to give people those good experiences. They might forget the actuality of what's happened, but they still feel nice. And that's why it's important still to give people those great experiences that all your visitor venues can offer to people. So thinking about top tips, neutral threshold mats. So if you've got a black mat, an easy win would be to take that away and put a neutral mat in instead. When you redecorate, plain walls and floor coverings. If you can have good lighting, that's brilliant, because darker, if you have lighting that has areas of dark and light, the dark bits can again appear like holes. So even lighting is helpful. Having relaxed sessions where it's okay if someone makes a different noise or behaves in a different way, they're nice because it takes the pressure off that person and whoever's supporting them. Similarly with autistic people as well. Have a space to relax where people can just kind of chill out. A memory box is great. So a memory box is a box that's often filled with products from yesteryear or images of a place in times gone by, or older branded products. And the purpose of that is to jog memories and start conversations. Again, and who wouldn't want to look through a little box of treasures? Because I know I like to do that as well. And you can have dementia-friendly signage. So if you think about the signage for a toilet, it's often a stick man and a stick lady. But what logically says toilet about that? The answer is nothing. But dementia-friendly signage, as an example here, it says toilet, there's a picture of a toilet, it's very clear what that is about. So, and you can get free dementia-friendly signage from the Alzheimer's Society online. So you can download that and use that and laminate it and use it around your venue. Coming to the end of my bit now. So the information is key. If you've not already got this message, so saying it again, information is absolutely key. It's the key that unlocks places to visit for people. So, have a look at what you've got online and add in your key accessibility features. So we did some work with 800 disabled consumers with different accessibility requirements to ask them what information is most important to you when you're visiting somewhere. And we've got the answer for different visitor economy businesses. So find the one that's right for you, look at it and think, okay, what have I got that I need to be telling people about, and put that on your website. If you do nothing else, if you don't even make any other changes, that would be mega. And you can think about commissioning an accessible detailed access guide. So that's the accessible, I've given the link there. That provides really detailed information for the people who need it for visit planning. So you can have someone who will either come round and have a look at your venue, or will give you a guided assessment remotely if you want to provide that additional layer of detail. So the link's there in the presentation as well. Customer service is the thing that creates a great welcome. So use the lived experience of your own team. People will have experience of all different aspects of what we've spoken about. So find a way to tap into that and use it. Your staff also are the eyes and ears of your business. So what are people saying? Are there any hiccups or snags people are experiencing? How can you put it right? There's also from Visit Scotland funded training available from Access-Able. And I've given the link about where to sort of access that training here again on the presentation. And empower your staff to make little changes that will make a difference. So your staff might be thinking, well, is it okay to go and get a chair from somewhere and offer it to someone? Is it okay to read a menu out for a blind person? Absolutely it is. And it's letting them know about all these resources that are available too, and supporting them. And coming soon, there's a new inclusive tourism toolkit from Visit Scotland, and we're supporting Visit Scotland to create that. So there's a new business support hub that's launching imminently on Visit Scotland. It's got guidance documents and tips to inspire businesses, and covers customer service, providing information, creating inclusive events and social tourism, amongst other things. So watch out for that, because it's going to be an absolutely sort of, full of goodies to help you with all the things I've spoken about today. There is already information on Visit Scotland, so I would recommend looking at that, but this is some new resources coming soon. And finally, it can feel scary. So, for venues, you might be uncertain about how to welcome everybody. And for your visitors like me, it's will everything be okay? But the rewards are huge. So for you, it's that increased share of a market, enhanced reputation of your brand, providing that warm welcome. And for visitors like me, it's treasured memories that will last a lifetime. It's not rocket science. This is rocket science. This is complicated. But what we're talking about here is really thoughtfulness. It's just putting yourself in someone else's shoes and thinking, what can I do that will really, really give that person a good experience with me today? And these are some examples. And it makes a huge difference to your visitors when you've gone that extra mile and had that little bit of thoughtfulness. So just remember, he who dares wins. Go for it. I'm kind of on an email if anyone wants to ask me any other questions. And as I said, there are fantastic resources on the Visit Scotland website. And I've given a link to it at the end of the presentation there. So that's a very, very whistle-stop tour through accessible tourism. And I'm going to stop my share. Is there anything you want? I know I've gone through, you must be bamboozled by kind of stuff, but it is a snapshot. Is there anything that you're thinking about that?